Welcome to another episode of the Build and Scale Boldly podcast. I'm Letizia Alto, your host, physician, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and today we're going to be talking about something I'm really excited to share with you, and it's something that every CEO, leader, and entrepreneur faces constantly, and that is problems or challenges. And this episode is going to be how we respond to those. And I'm going to share with you a framework that I've developed that really has changed my experience of having problems. And so if you feel like the pressure never stops, you're constantly putting out fires, you're not alone. Many of us have felt like that before. And what this episode is going to show you is how you shift that experience of these moments entirely, and how you shift problems, of course, into growth opportunities, but even actually start to enjoy having problems. So let's talk about how this framework works, because it's really transformed things for me. I really wanted to share it with you. So first of all, we have to get away from trying to get rid of problems. Problems are just part of the deal. So they are part of life. And the fact is, if you are alive, you will have problems. And if you're building a business and you're a CEO, your only job is to solve problems. So that's just part of what you're paid to do. And the goal is not to get rid of problems. They're just to get better at solving them and to solve bigger problems over time, because that's going to increase the impact that you're able to have and your company is able to have, and increase really your threshold of control, the threshold of types of problems that you can deal with. And as that grows, you become less and less fearful, because you're able to handle bigger and bigger problems. Now, here's the other truth. Every time you have a problem and you solve it, you've grown, right? Problems are a way that teaches us and allows us the opportunity to grow. If everything always went your way, you would not have any growth. You would just stay stable. Things would be comfortable. Things would, if you did something and it always worked out, then you would never have to grow. So problems are actually really necessary for our growth, and they are necessary to become stronger and wiser. And I think most of you know that, even though in the moment you may hate the problem, you really do know long-term that you do need problems in order to become a bigger version of yourself and to build your capacity. So let's just stop wishing for problems to go away, and let's start to learn this framework so we can actually make having problems an enjoyable experience and an opportunity to rise and grow. So let's talk about the idea that the obstacle is the way. So this is a really popular idea that's come from Stoicism, and Ryan Holiday has a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And the idea is problems are a growth opportunity. You don't want to resist them at all. You don't want to try to go around them, right? You focus on what you can control and you go through it, right? You grow with the obstacle, and you must go through the obstacle in order to get to the other side, which is really where you want to be. And I think this is a really great movement, because it starts to say to us, hey, obstacles are a really great thing to have. But it's challenging too, because when you think about the word obstacle, it carries a certain amount of energy with it. And intellectually, we can know all this, but how many of us are actually living this experience? And honestly, I think part of it is word choice. And I think that when we think about things like problems or issues or obstacles, these carry a certain amount of energy with them. And even if we mentally tell a story, sometimes it can be still a little bit difficult to really enjoy the experience of having a problem in the moment. So knowing intellectually and living are completely different things. And so what I wanted to really share with you is a language that I've developed. So, words matter. And let's say, and I just want to start out by giving you an example. Let's say I tell you I have an issue. How does that make you feel? And what do you feel about the solvability of that issue, right? An issue is a vague word. It doesn't really have corners to it, and it feels a little bit unsolvable. But what if I come to you and say, that same situation is now a problem? Well, it feels like it's discrete. It feels like it's solvable. It has a certain amount of time maybe that it's going to last. It feels a lot more like you can do something about something when it's a problem versus when it's an issue, right? An issue just is, at least my experience of the word is, it's so much more vague and so much more large that I don't even know where to start. Whereas a problem is like, okay, I can take some action, I can solve this. Now, many years ago, actually, Kenji, my husband, and I started to stop calling things problems. We started to call things challenges. And why did we start doing that? Well, challenges has a different level of energy. It has a little bit of lightness to it, a little bit of fun. Sometimes we even call them worthy challengers, right? And that idea is, let's make this a game. Let's add a little bit more energy to it. And a challenge is something that makes you grow, right? And so kind of brings in that growth aspect, whereas problem is a negative feeling and a negative connotation. Challenge can have a great connotation, especially if you're thinking about athletic challenges that can have a positive side to it too. So we call things worthy challengers. It brings a lot more energy. It brings a little bit of spirit of competitiveness, maybe. It brings some sense that you're going to grow. And I think it's really empowering. Well, more recently, I came up with a different terminology that I wanted to share with you. That's what this whole podcast is about. And I think it's even more empowering and just brings a different sense. And I have to say, from speaking about problems or challenges this way, it's so much easier to move forward, to take action, and then to be able to move through it with a focus on growth. Okay, so here's the reframe. Instead of calling it an issue or calling it a problem or calling it a challenger or a worthy challenger, how about calling things a call for greater resourcefulness? Okay, so there's a situation that happens to you. Well, this is a call for greater resourcefulness. What does that do? Well, when you say it that way, what it does is gives you a sense of power, right? Because all of a sudden, it's about you becoming more resourceful. And that word greater, the sentence, a call for greater resourcefulness, underneath assumes you already are resourceful, right? So it's not even that you need to become resourceful, it's that you harness or you go and you find more resourcefulness in the situation. So it's a call for greater resourcefulness. And what it does is instead of focusing on the problem or the challenge, you're now focused on what are the resources I can tap into, which is so aligned with my philosophy of who, not how, which I think is a really phenomenal book by Benjamin Hardy, and a really great philosophy of a lot of times it's not about you doing something or you coming up with a solution or you finding the way. It's actually tapping into a who can help you be able to find the right way or the right answer. And so when you say, hey, this situation is a call for greater resourcefulness, it now puts you into an action state. It now focuses you on what can be done, not suffering in the situation. And it also allows you that space of saying, okay, what are my resources, right? There's resources within you of, your grit, your perseverance, your courage. There's those types of inner resourcefulness, but there's also external resources, which are people or people who know other people. And so it allows you to both look at your inner resourcefulness and also external resourcefulness. And I have to say, resourcefulness, I think, is one of the greatest superpowers you can have. I actually have family cultural values that I've created for our family and that Kenji and I live by and what we're trying to teach our kids. And resourcefulness is one of the core 4 family cultural values, because when you have resourcefulness, it captures not only grit and determination and persistence, but it also captures a little bit of trust in yourself. And again, looking inside, but also there can be external resourcefulness and gathering your network and gathering your people and your peers to be able to help you as well. So again, I really think if you are facing a problem, if you shift the idea that this is an issue or this is a problem or even that this is a challenge, and you shift it to be, this is a call for greater resourcefulness, your experience of the whole thing changes. It adds so much more energy and makes the situation so much more solvable. And you start to take action from a different place, and it can feel fun, right? It can feel like a puzzle, right? This is a call for greater resourcefulness. This is an adventure. That is such a different experience. So it's not even talking about obstacles, because again, I really feel that word obstacle is fraught because it's so heavy. But a call for greater resourcefulness is not heavy in my mind. And it actually just even saying those words changes your experience of the situation. So you actually start to live this way instead of just intellectually knowing that you should be living this way or you should be doing it this way. You actually start to live it. So in summary, problems don't have to be a bad experience. In fact, first of all, problems are necessary. Problems lead you to grow. Your goal should not be to get rid of your problems, but you can totally transform the experience of having problems or challenges into a really great thing if you call them a call for greater resourcefulness. This adds energy. This makes the situation fun. It turns it into a puzzle, and it allows you to kind of go and take action in a different way. And you get closer to that, further version of yourself, because you're now going to grow and you're going to come from a place where you're going to actually have better outcomes because you're coming with a higher energy space. What this is all about, in my opinion, is becoming more of who you must be in order to serve your purpose in the world. And I think this terminology really makes a difference. So I encourage all of you to try it. Now, if this episode helps shift your mindset and you want to go much deeper in this, I have to say I've done a lot of mindset work. I'm continuing to do mindset work. And so I put a list of my favorite books about mindset and mental mastery in the show notes for you guys. I have a download called My Favorite Books. And these are the exact books that help me build the way that I think, the habits and the resilience that I use every day as an entrepreneur. And you can grab that at www.beyara.com/books. So that's www.beyara.com/books. Now, this gets us to our reflection question for the day. So what's one situation that you've been labeling a problem and you've been kind of suffering about that you can totally change your experience of by renaming it a call for greater resourcefulness? And how does that reframe make you feel? What's one way now that you can creatively show up to solve that issue or that problem or that challenge now that you've reframed it in your mind and given it a little bit more energy and given yourself a little bit more energy? Now, if this episode gave you clarity and gave you some ideas of how you want to lead differently, make sure to subscribe and also share it with a friend. If you know a female entrepreneur who could really benefit from learning skills on how to CEO or wants to learn more mindset, habits, and strategies, share the Build and Scale Boldly podcast with her. Okay, keep dreaming big, keep leading boldly, and most of all, keep building the business and life that you love. We'll see you next time.